Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with his good friend Dion. How you doing, sir?
Howdy, Mike. Ready for round two.
Yeah, so I don't know if you saw it. I think you may have. Matt, the lumberjack, and I got to playing with your cheat code to wealth. I was beating on an Excel spreadsheet, just trying to get the rough sketch in. I think it's going to become something that the three of us put in the Get the Money Right course eventually. But why don't you talk about what it is? Because again, you have come up with it, you have named it, and it is awesome. The cheat code to wealth. What does it mean to you?
So it's actually a rebranding exercise. The issue that I think is when somebody likes me hears somebody talk about travel hacking or credit card hacking, my brain basically shuts off.
Mm-hmm.
Each credit card company and each travel company has a different way of running their points, and they have blackout days, and it's too confusing when I could just go, I want a cash back credit card.
Exactly.
Every month, I'm going to get $60 to $90 back into my account since I never carry a balance that I can just spend. It's money. I understand money.
Yeah.
So when we say something like house hacking, reducing or eliminating your housing cost, which is for most people our largest expense, it is the simplest way to reach wealth within 10 years, even if you're not starting from a good position. But people hear hacking and they think, I can't do that. I could never talk my spouse into hacking. And then I ask, have you ever had roommates? Have you ever stayed with friends or family? And when people think of house hacking, if they're thinking shared living space, yeah, if you have young kids, that's not the best way to go. But what about living in a small multifamily, duplex, triplex, fourplex, where you don't have any shared living space, like millions of people who live in apartments do that have kids, or buying a house with an ADU, so two different structures where you don't even have shared walls, and reducing that largest expense. It's so much more powerful than taking care of something like the latte factor.
Yeah.
Saving $5 a day or $10 with tip can equal a few $1,000s a year, where house hacking can be thousands of dollars a month.
Yes.
And so the cheat code, to look at two people, somebody who's paying $1,500 a month for where they live, an apartment, their mortgage, $1,500. That's a fair amount in most places. There are places where you pay $400, there's places where you pay $700. But I was paying $1,500 for my apartment, so that's the number I chose.
Okay.
Excuse me. So now I'm being paid $1,700 a month to live in my fourplex. I live in a unit. I have 1,200 square feet with a garage and a shed, way more room than I had when I was in my crappy little $1,500 a month apartment.
Yeah.
So the gap between somebody paying $1,500 and me being paid $1,700 is $3,200 a month difference in our pay without looking at what we do for work.
Exactly.
That's the largest thing that I can think of doing that doesn't require more work, doesn't require a new degree, doesn't require changing careers, what could anybody do to get a $3,200 a month raise without having to go to your boss and ask for it? When I first started investing, I was making $17 an hour. $3,200 a month, and you have the economics degree, 2,080 hours in a work year if you work 40 hours a week. Correct. It comes out to $18.50 an hour on a 40-hour work week to have that $3,200 change. I over doubled my income from when I started investing just by moving into a place, a fourplex instead of a single family house. And in my area, single family houses cost $400,000 to $600,000, and my fourplex was only $590,000. So it's at the high end of what a single family would have cost me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get other content creators like you and Matt and Millennial Mike and thank you for the intro, by the way. I just did a quick couple of videos with him. He's great. It's kind of cool to see another guy in law enforcement looking at real estate, because so many don't. But yeah, so it's the cheat code. You don't have to do all of the work of playing to win the game. You can actually just enter a code.
I think it's
up, down, down, left, right, B, A, and start. And there you go.
Yes. I didn't play video games, but I get it. I was playing with balls outside.
Right.
But yeah, this cheat code to wealth. And again, a lot of people are going to push back. I would tell you a lot. I've already heard it from folks. So I did a video on it, right, with Matt, and like, oh, I can never get my wife or husband to think about that. Most people are selling it wrong. I've told you the key to selling is not the head, it's the heart. Instead of going, honey, we can have $3,300 a month and we would save 17, or you start quoting numbers, you've lost them already. You got to get the heart. Talk about what you would do with the extra $3,300, or how you could save for this, or how you could have your mother-in-law move in, or you got to find something that grabs them by the heart that says, you know what? I don't mind living with, in a fourplex, right? Because people have a perception of stepping backwards. And what people don't realize is Anna Kelly did that. Lumberjack did that. You've done that. I mean, a lot of the people that are my experts went backwards. Shoot, even Jonathan Twomley thought about it. But it's folks, you gotta understand that there is a cheat code to wealth. And I've talked about it lots of times. You got to sacrifice, get uncomfortable just for a little while. And then while we're here, why don't we talk about how the cheat code feeds the income snowball? Because that was the magic touch for me. I'm like, this freaking Dion guy's a genius. He plays this lazy card. He's not lazy. He is amazingly efficient. You do the cheat code, you get this extra 3,300, it recycles every month, and then you add units and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And boom, pretty soon you have a huge income snowball.
When it comes to your debt to income ratio, including rental income on your tax returns makes it a lot easier to buy the next property, especially if you're going to use this cheat code. And on the lazy thing, I have two brothers who work so much harder than me. They call me the lazy one.
All right.
So I own up to it.
That's
and
fine.
If you want to find the easiest way to do something, ask the lazy person. They know the easiest way to do it.
Fair
so if you
enough.
want to find the easiest way to financial freedom, ask somebody like me, because my motivation was I wanted to make work optional.
Right.
Which feeds into the lazy. But you nailed it when you said the way to a person isn't getting into their head, it's getting into their heart. And I love the quote, if you share your heart with somebody, you're more likely to get the response you want instead of giving them a piece of your mind.
Yes.
So that's what you're doing when you're trying to convince them of the math. But $3,200 a month is about $38,000 a year. If you add $20,000 a year to your investing and adding towards the next down payment for the next property, that adds up really quick, which leaves you $18,000 to take to your family and say, who wants to go to Disneyland?
What do you want
Who
to
wants
do?
to take a cruise?
Yeah.
This is how we do it. Who wants to go to school but not have to take out a bunch of student loan debt? Here's the $18,000 you're going to need for that in just one house hack.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about those numbers, I'm leaving out the first house hack, which is a duplex, which is now cash flowing another $800 a month. So each time you do this, it can repeat. And this cheat code isn't always house hacking to share living expenses or even to reduce your living expenses. Sometimes it's getting a property with a zero or low money down owner occupied loan. Sometimes you use a VA loan to buy a house, live there for a year, and then after that move into another one. A lot of military members do this when they're at a duty station for 3 years. Every time you're at a duty station, you have a rental there because you purchased a house with your VA loan that then becomes a cash flowing rental. So when you get out, at some time, I have a friend who's getting out at 17 years because they're not letting him re-enlist. So you can't make the 20-year for retirement. So
that's got to suck.
It sucks for a lot of people between that, 12 to 18 years where they just kind of get pushed out because the government knows they can save a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But if they had picked up a rental at each duty station, and if you're at one every couple of years, that's 5 to 7 cash flowing rentals when you get out. Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah.
And how it starts the income snowball is I'm talking about the cash flow. It's a $3,200 difference between paying for my apartment or living where I am now. But just from the one fourplex appreciation in my area, we saw over 15% last year. I think Seattle saw 31%. It was like top of the nation.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm not even going to go with those numbers, just the 24, it was 24, but I'm going to go with 15. With just 15% appreciation last year, my net worth changed by over $88,000 because I lived in this property, which I'm getting paid to do.
Yeah, that's not let me see. I'm getting paid to live here, and I had 88,000 go up. And oh, by the way, I had mortgage pay down. Oh, and I had depreciation hiding income. And that's just amazing.
Right. And I'm keeping the math as simple as possible because it's easier to understand something if you can explain it simply.
Yes.
But it actually costs more to live in the apartment because to have the $1,500 to pay the rent, I had to earn it, which is the taxable income to do that. This $1,700 a month I'm being paid is basically tax-free with things like depreciation and write-offs. I'm trying to get the information out there. So I really appreciate guys like you and Matt and Mike
Yeah. We're going to try to templatize it. It's still very raw, but we're going to put it in a template. It's going to, and really what I'm going to try to do with it is I actually want to challenge homeowners. I'm not saying actually sell your home and go buy a fourplex. I'm just saying do the math. Let's just do the math. Because again, a homeowner, right? Somebody who bought a home at 25, now they're 29. They have a bunch of equity, but they're cash strapped. If they sell the home, they can get, oh, by the way, $250,000 or $500,000 tax-free IRS if you live there 2 out of 5 years. Then you have a big old pile of cash. Then you can go get a fourplex with 5% down, and you still have a bunch of cash, and you get paid to live there. I mean, I want people to do the math because my vision is to challenge people that actually are homeowners to think about living in a fourplex. Now, not a lot of people will, but I want to do the math because I think it's great for people coming out going, hey, I'm going to buy a fourplex first. I think we can do that. But I still want to go to the next step level and say, hey, I'm a homeowner. I've made it. Well, what happens if you sold that and you did this instead? What would you think? So it's pretty cool.
I really like that challenge. And there's another version of it that doesn't require selling the house or even tapping the equity. And this is the one that worked for me because I was underwater on the house. I couldn't sell the house. And I had a bad debt to income ratio. The reason I was paying $1,500 a month for an apartment is because I owned a house. I kept the house in the divorce. I've always been really good at keeping kids, and my house, never good at keeping the girl around. But I moved into an apartment and rented out my house. So most people would think that's very confusing. Why would you be renting an apartment if you own a house? Well, that gave me 2 years to get rental income on my tax returns so that I could have the debt to income ratio to buy the next property. So once you have once you have rental income on your taxes, lenders will look at 75% of rental income of the properties you're looking at to purchase.
Yeah.
So back then, making $17 an hour, there was no way I was going to buy a $590,000 property. But once I had the tax returns that showed rental income, I was able to say, here's the income of the property that is more than the mortgage, even only at 75%, with me living there. And the lenders go, yeah, however much you can save for the down payment, that's the amount that you can borrow up to. We don't have a cap for you.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't making a lot of money.
Yeah, this cheat code to wealth is something we've got to beat on it some more. We'll talk about it, I think, later today with the three amigos. But how can people find you and be part of your world?
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom.
Thanks, buddy.